Look, capable founders don't burn out because they're weak people. They burn out because their system design violates physics. They try to push more force through structures that were never built to carry the load. More hours, more tabs, more decisions, more responsibility concentrated in the center of the company. At first, it feels like strength, like, oh, look how powerful I am. But eventually, it feels like drag. Friction rises, signal degrades. Every action costs more energy than it should. What looks like a motivation problem is almost always a mechanical problem. Burnout is not emotional failure. It's a system mismatch between output demands and how your personal operating architecture routes energy, attention, and authority. When you study founders who scale cleanly past 1 million, then 3 million, then 5 million, you see something counterintuitive. They don't work harder. They reduce friction. They remove weight. They redesign flow paths. They behave less like heroic operators and more like engineers tuning a machine. They treat their calendar like a circuit board, their team like distributed processors, and their own cognition like a scarce compute resource. Their edge is not effort, it's coherence. Everything points in one direction, nothing leaks. That's what allows growth without exhaustion. The business scales because the founder's nervous system isn't carrying the whole business on their back. The first shift is capacity. Most founders measure capacity in hours, which is the least useful metric available. Hours assume all time units are equal, which they aren't. Strategic thinking, negotiation, architecture, and hiring decisions consume far more bandwidth, cognitive bandwidth, than answering email or reviewing copy. If you price all your tasks the same, you overload the most expensive part of your system, you. Clean scaling begins when you treat your attention like it's premium compute. You only run high leverage processes locally and push everything else to cheaper processors. Those are your people. If a task doesn't require your judgment or pattern recognition, it shouldn't execute on your brain. The moment you internalize that, you stop being busy and start being selective. You start being productive. Capacity rises without adding a single hour. The second shift is decision compression. Burnout comes from micro decisions, not big ones. Slack messages, approvals, quick pings, tiny choices that look harmless when you isolate them, but collectively, they create constant context switching. And every switch introduces latency, which compounds into fatigue. High-performing founders collapse thousands of small decisions into a few governing rules. Instead of answering, what should we do here 50 times a day? They design principles that answer these questions automatically. Pricing bands, hiring criteria, content standards, client filters. Once those are defined, the team can act without you. Your day stops fragmenting. You get long, uninterrupted stretches of thought. Strategy becomes possible again because the noise floor drops. The sure shift is energy matching. Most people assign tasks based on urgency or external demand. Scaled operators assign based on energy profile. Deep thinking when cognition is sharp. Relational work when social energy is high. Administrative cleanup when attention is low. This isn't lifestyle optimization. It's physics. Forcing high signal work through low energy states creates unnecessary resistance. The work takes twice as long and feels twice as heavy. When you align task type with your internal state, your personal state, the same output requires much less force. You feel less drained because you stopped swimming upstream. The day starts to feel like flow instead of grind. You're not pushing the system, you're riding it. The fourth shift is authority distribution. Early stage businesses centralize authority because that's what's safe. The founder approves everything, controls everything, knows everything. That works until the load exceeds that person's bandwidth. Then control becomes the bottleneck. Every request queues behind you. The team slows, you speed up. The mismatch creates stress on both sides. Scaled founders designed clear domains of ownership where decisions are made without escalation. Not loose delegation, but true authority with defined outcomes. When someone owns a function, they don't ask for permission. They just operate. They just do what they have to. The role changes from operator to field shaper. You adjust constraints and direction, not individual moves. This dramatically reduces cognitive overload. The fifth shift is pipeline gravity. Many founders chase growth through constant outbound force. More posts, more calls, more launches. That's thrust-based growth, and it's exhausting. Sustainable scaling uses gravity instead. You design assets that attract demand automatically, clear positioning, compelling intellectual property, repeatable proof, content that compounds rather than disappears. When your signal is strong, opportunities fall towards you with less effort. You're not convincing people, you're clarifying who it's for. The difference in energy costs is enormous. One approach requires perpetual pushing. The other lets the field do the pulling. Gravity is quieter, but it scales. The sixth shift is constraint design. Counterintuitive, founders who feel more free operate inside tight constraints. They cap client load. They limit meeting days. They restrict offer count. They intentionally say no to surface area. Without constraints, everything expands. More clients than you can serve well. More products than you can maintain. More commitments than your calendar can hold. Sprawl creates hidden complexity, and complexity breeds exhaustion. When you constrain deliberately, you simplify your system. Fewer moving parts means fewer failure points. Decisions get cleaner, quality rises, you feel calmer because your environment is predictable. Constraint isn't limitation, it's structure that protects your energy. And the last shift is identity alignment with your role. Many competent founders keep acting like scrappy starters long after the business requires, a strategist. They still jump into operations, fix small problems, answer every email. It feels like they're being responsible, but it's misaligned with the level they're trying to play at. Your behavior has to match the altitude of your role. At higher levels, value comes from direction or architecture, not activity. If you keep proving your worth through motion, you burn out because the work never ends. When you redefine your job as shaping the system rather than doing the work, the volume of necessary effort drops dramatically. You're moving levers. You're not lifting boxes. Consider a consultant at $2 million in revenue who feels constantly behind. She works 10 hours a day and still can't catch up. When we map our week, we see strategy squeezed between calls, client fires routed directly to her, pricing decisions made case by case, and marketing that resets every month. Nothing compounds. Everything requires fresh energy. But once she installs decision rules, delegates true ownership to a project lead, and replaces custom proposal with standard packages, her workload drops by half. Revenue doesn't fall. It rises because the team moves faster and she can finally think. The fatigue wasn't about effort. It was about architecture. Or take a founder with a growing presence who feels constant pressure to produce forever. He records daily edits late at night and manually distributes everywhere. It takes work until it doesn't. We shift him to batch production, repurpose intelligently, and design evergreen pieces that attract inbound over time. Suddenly, 1 hour of thinking produces weeks of signal. The system compounds. He stops sprinting. His reach expands while his daily workload shrinks. Again, the lever wasn't motivation, it was design. What ties all this together is coherence. When tasks match energy, Decisions compress into principles. Authority distributes cleanly. Demand is pulled by gravity, and constraints protect simplicity. Your role aligns with your level. Your system stops fighting you. Your friction drops. The same effort yields more output. You feel calm not because you care less, but because the mechanics make sense. Burnout fades because nothing is grinding against anything else. It's like tuning an engine. Everything is aligned and the engine hums. If you're already competent and still feel strain, assume that it's structural, not personal. Don't reach for more discipline. Reach for better design. Map where the energy leaks, where decisions finally fragment, where you're acting below your aptitude, where your authority bottlenecks, where growth depends on force instead of gravity. Fix those and you won't need heroic effort. You'll get leverage. Scaling then becomes not how hard you can push, but how much more cleanly the system moves. And when the system moves cleanly, you can grow for years without burning out because you're no longer carrying the weight yourself. The structure is carrying it for you.